Kim Trotter and her staff persuaded state and federal agencies when they were looking at water supply study options to reconsider rebuilding the Teton Dam, a dam that has already blown once in 1977, killing very many people, and instead to look at more cost-effective, environmentally friendly options. On the Penobscot, TU, through Jeff Reardon, is working in a very large and significant partnership to raise $25 million to help take down 2 dams in this river system and then provide a bypass around a third. When this project is complete, and we expect construction to begin in 2011, I should say deconstruction, I guess, we'll recover 1,100 miles of historic spawning habitat, not only for Atlantic salmon, but for also 10 other anadromous fish species. On Nash Stream, which many of you saw yesterday when you attended Jim McCartney's tour, TU and a series of partners have removed several culverts and replaced them with several bridges, as you see here, and we've secured permits to reconstruct 3 miles of in-stream channel habitat. Scott Yates and his staff in Wyoming have replaced the culvert with a bridge, and by so doing opened up 20 miles of historic spawning habitat to native Yellowstone cutthroat. Development will begin, or construction will begin this year on an even more ambitious project on Grade Creek, where we'll remove a historic bypass or provide a new bypass structure which will allow passage and access to 60 miles of historic spawning habitat that's been blocked off for 100 years. On the Methow River in Washington State, Lisa Pelly and her staff, who, as you may recall, are new to Trout Unlimited. We merged with the Washington Rivers Conservancy last year. They've just received a $750,000 grant through the Farm Bill to work with agricultural interests to improve irrigation efficiency and then leave that saved water in stream to benefit fish. This is an extraordinarily cool project. In California, the State Water Board unanimously agreed to a proposal that covers 5,900 stream miles, 3 million watershed acres, and 2,000 plus culverts, or diversions. The plan would enhance stream flows through a more collaborative approach to keeping water in stream that was pioneered by Chuck Bonham and our California staff. Now, watershed restoration has always been the hallmark of TU, from the most local level up through the national office and our Home Rivers initiatives. And this year is no different. Our flagship Embrace a Stream program this year funded 24 projects for a total of $2.7 million after the match. Given that it's our 50th year of our birth from Michigan, it's fitting that we have our first major large-scale watershed restoration Home Rivers initiative in Michigan this year on the Rogue River, an urban watershed that's near Grand Rapids. We'll be hiring, or I guess initiating that project this month. On the Connecticut River, Joe Norton, again, I think some of you saw this yesterday. Joe Norton and the partners that he works with has been effective in raising $300,000 in funding for a variety of telemetry, research, and restoration projects. And we're working with Vermont's Linden State College to bring in 4 summer interns who will help us with habitat typing and habitat sampling this summer. One of our largest projects inspired by the grassroots is the Driftless Area Restoration Project. On the Driftless, Jeff Reardon has raised $1.75 million for a variety of stream bank stabilization and habitat restoration projects. In addition, the Minnesota Council did extraordinary work in securing an additional $2 million through the Lessard Outdoor Heritage Fund. Many of those resources were directed to the Driftless area and elsewhere in the state of Minnesota. On the South Fork of the Snake River, Matt Woodard has had extraordinary success in replacing some of these old, outdated diversion structures that you see on the left that entrap and entrain fish with new modern structures that allow for water usage but don't trap fish. It's been a tremendous success, and we continue on there. Abandoned mines are the sort of quiet scourge of the western United States. The EPA estimates that about 40% of all of our western headwater streams, these are the strongholds for all native trout in the west, are impacted by abandoned mines. And we've done we've been working with a huge array of partners across the West on a variety of projects, but one of our coolest ones is in the upper Boise River watershed, where Pam Smolcinski and the local chapters there have brought out more than 1,000 children. We're talking about Boise, Idaho here. This isn't New York City. 1,000 children to replant and help repair the riparian areas that have been affected by historic mining. Additionally, on the Feather River, which is associated with the upper Boise, we recovered 55 miles of spawning habitat that had been lost to bull trout and red band trout by removing and replacing outdated culvert and diversion structures. Now, the Montana Council was instrumental in the removal of the Milltown Dam on the Clark Fork. Further up in the watershed, Laura Ziemer and the Montana Water Project designed a water lease that reconnected 40 miles of historic native cutthroat habitat that had been dewatered and otherwise lost. And working with the Nature Conservancy, the state and local chapters, Rob Roberts managed to decommission 120 miles of old roads that were bleeding into streams and removing and replacing more than 75 culverts. Pictured here are one of the 80 spawning pairs of Endangered Species Act listed Oregon coast coho that returned to Thompson Creek in the Nicanicum River watershed in Oregon to spawn this year. Thompson Creek is about one of 6 active restoration projects that make up our Oregon North Coast Initiative. This is a great initiative that's been led by Brian Moore and our volunteers in the region. The West Branch of the Susquehanna, a very large river system that's well known to all of us in the East. It's a system that drains 20% of the entire state of Pennsylvania, suffers from a legacy of acid mine drainage from historic coal mining. Amy Wolf and her partners and staff modeled the cleanup of this river on our very successful Home Rivers Initiative in Kettle Creek. And the results are tremendously encouraging. This year, we saw nearly 200 miles of river main stem and multiple main area tributaries in recovery from acid mine drainage. And on Kettle Creek, an area that TU made about an 8-year investment in recovering that area from acid mine drainage, for the first time ever, we saw native brook trout spawning below a TU treatment facility. TU and its partners have worked on recovering the last large lake population of migratory Bonneville cutthroat trout, and it's working. 2010 marked the first large natural spawning event for Bear Lake Bonneville cutthroat trout in over 60 years. Kirk Dolly and his staff witnessed over 100 large Bonneville cutthroat trout spawning in the lake as a result of that restoration and reconnection work. In West Virginia, we are fencing so many creeks and rivers from cows that we've actually hired a fencing crew, and there they are on the right. Gary Birdie and his staff have effectively fenced off more than 20 miles, think about that for a second, 20 miles this year of stream, and have also replanted and recovered over 100 acres of the Big Run watershed. Seth Kaufman and local chapters are working to extend the cold water influence of the tributaries to the Shenandoah River through culvert removal, riparian replanting, and other restoration techniques. This is one of the stretches that will be repaired this year. The stream will be narrowed, deepened, and its natural meanders will be restored. On the Deschutes, we are not simply healing a sick river, we're helping the community to help themselves by doing so too. The Deschutes Basin Stewards and Stewardship Projects helps to train local citizens in monitoring, advocacy, restoration, and planning. And then finally, in partnership with Cal Trout, UC Davis, and UN Reno, and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, TU's science team is identifying and assessing potential meadow restoration benefits that will both benefit water supplies and California fish, native fish too. In some cases, we believe that 50,000 to 500,000 acre-feet of water could be stored and then slowly released over time, obviating the need for costly and environmentally damaging storage projects in that area.